You're going to fall in love over and over again. That is your journey.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I don't know when exactly you'll be watching this video, but as of April 2022, we're in the midst of wedding planning, which I'm super excited about. Our wedding is in October, and I've always wanted a platform to share with you guys the process of planning our own wedding, documenting what we did and why we did what we did, and just talk about everything wedding related. I know that it is quite a niche topic, and it is definitely not something that I've ever filmed before. I'm not a wedding planner myself, but I've really enjoyed watching others' wedding content like wedding series, bridal vlogs during my very initial stage of wedding planning. And because we're mailing out our very first batch of wedding invitations next week, I just want to pop on here and share with you guys what we did for our wedding invitations. In this video, I'm going to go through how we come about finding our wedding invitation vendor, what we picked, and basically the thought process of everything behind this beautiful piece of wedding invitations right here, if I do say so myself. So if that is something that you're interested in, then keep on watching. If you're new here, hi, my name is Ida. I make videos about luxury handbags, lifestyle vlogs, apparently wedding content now, but basically anything in between. So if that is something that you're interested in, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. I'd love for you to join me in this journey of mine. Right, let's backtrack a little bit. At the very initial stage of wedding planning, even before setting our venue and dates in mind, wedding invitations were the very first things I looked into. It might not be the exact right order, but I was super excited to get into it. You always see these beautiful wedding invitation suite flat lays and like super satisfying wax stamping videos on Instagram. It just seems like a very fun process to start with. Now, because of how weddings are around my environment or culture, like based on weddings of my family and friends in Hong Kong, we don't normally do save the date send outs. Thankfully, I personally think it can be quite a waste of paper, materials, and postage, so we will normally do one set of wedding invitation or an additional Chinese banquet invitation. But because we're not doing that, we're looking to have a more smaller, intimate, more Western wedding of maximum 30 guests in London. And because of the pandemic, which I cannot believe it is still a thing in 2022, almost every one of my family members are based in Hong Kong, some are in Canada, some are in Taiwan. Knowing that it is going to be a very big ask for them to have to fly over, it was very important for me and Brian to at least get the first batch of invitations out early so that they can see if it is something that they want to come to and start thinking about traveling again and organizing their schedules accordingly. Initially, I really didn't have a clear vision of what our wedding invitations are going to look like. I know for a fact that they will be black and white just because those are our favorite colors and basically the theme of our wedding, dress code, vibe, everything. At one point, I was also considering designing the entire wedding suite myself, be it on Canva, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator. It is definitely something one can do if you are more familiar with graphic designs and just get someone to print it out for you on nice cards. But I wasn't too familiar with printing companies in the UK and working out the specifications of the weight of the paper, minimum quantities, quality, and just what happens if things messed up. And additionally, during my research, I also really wanted to incorporate volume with printing on it, which is basically this sheer, almost like a parchment paper material. I just feel like this material is quite unique and can soften things up. So in the grand scheme of things, it just seems like a little bit too much to orchestrate the whole thing myself. Also, right off the bat, I know that I will not opt for a custom designed wedding invitation route where you invite a wedding stationery designer to custom design the entire set for you. So from save the dates to invitations to menus to thank you cards, and you can then choose like scalloped edges, gold foil lettering, embossing, hand calligraphy, acrylic invitations, or like custom watercolored venue maps, which is definitely super special and one of a kind. But for our micro wedding of 30 packs, I wasn't too bothered about custom designs. I mean, wedding invitations at the end of the day to me and Brian is to get the information across, get your guest to RSVP, and communicate your style, and maybe share an initial first impression of your wedding, if that makes sense. Anyways, so when I head to Etsy one day just to order a few wedding invitation samples from sellers within the UK, just to have some tangible materials to play with and get the ideas flowing. During my research, I know that Minted and The Knot also offer like free sampling, but we didn't really look into that just because, I don't know, it felt a little bit mainstream. But if you've never heard of them, you can check them out, or check out Papier, which is this beautiful, gorgeous stationery website, which I'll talk more about next. So here are some of the wedding invitation samples. So you can really have a tangible feel of what sizes you like, what texture, what color. From ordering these, I've decided that this size of invitation is definitely too big, whereas this size is definitely a little bit too small. Some of them also comes with various envelope designs, so you can kind of see like different tones of gray. I was also playing mix and match with different sets of invitation samples, and ultimately fell in love with this combination right here, which is a volume jacket with a white thread in the middle, a 5x7 invitation on black 320 GSM card, A6 vellum card with printing on it, and the A7 RSVP on a textured 300 GSM gesso card. Just to give you guys a timeline for reference, we ordered these samples at the end of October 2021 and only decided to reach back out to our Etsy seller, which by the way is Rebecca from Quiltly Pics, just to share with her my vision and get an initial quote from her in Jan 2022. So there are a few months gap in between. I guess we're just trying to figure out the venue. I ordered myself a custom wax seal and just trying to figure out the logistics of RSVP, because the idea of mailing little cards of RSVP card would just not work for us. Researching on invitation wordings, formalities, and everything. It was a lot. Speaking of which, wording of invitations. Oh my god, took me quite a few weeks just to put together something that sounded right to us. There are so many variations and how formal you want to sound. We don't want to sound too formal because that's not really our style, but we don't want to sound too casual because we don't want to lack the elegance, if you will. I know people say like, together with our families, we cordially invite you to the marriage of Ida and Brian. Or, join us as we celebrate the marriage of Ida and Brian. Or, we request the honor of your presence at the marriage of Ida and Brian. I mean, no offense, I just really didn't like the word marriage. I kind of prefer the word wedding. So all of these things, you kind of have to do your own research and decide accordingly. I mainly looked up wedding invitations, I referenced my friends' invitations, looked into formalities and researched the etiquette of things, like how do you want the date and time to be typed out? Do you want it in numbers or in alphabets? What are the punctuations like? Because you don't want to get these things wrong, but there weren't any guides out there either, not that I know of. Do you need to stay in the morning or in the afternoon? How should you phrase it so that guests know that the reception is at another venue, which ours are? Another thing was, because we are using an online RSVP platform, I need to figure out how to present it, because that is something I don't think Rebecca, the designer that we ended up choosing on Etsy, will be doing it for us. Or she might, but because I can be quite particular, I would feel a little bit more comfortable figuring that out myself and presenting my idea to see if it works for her. So in the end, we came up with the following. Ida and Brian are delighted to invite you to their wedding. Monday, the 10th of October, 2022, 11 o'clock in the morning, London, followed by a luncheon reception at black tie optional. And on the vellum card, even though we're not doing save the date send outs, I do like the tone and the word save the date on our invitation, so I included that with the information here. Ceremony. Our ceremony will begin promptly at 11 a.m., so please ensure you're seated by this time. Reception. Join us for a luncheon reception following the ceremony at Mayfair. Transportation has been arranged and will leave at 12:30 p.m. Lastly, for the RSVP card, because it is going to be hosted online via Weddings Papier, which also required individual logins for guests to RSVP, I had to include a simple instruction. I wanted to include a QR code just because that is the most straightforward way for guests to visit our landing page, but I didn't want the QR code to be at the front. So I asked if Rebecca can print it double-sided, which was an extra, but she was so kind to work with me on, and I loved the end result of it. Now, moving on to our wedding RSVP online platform. Initially, I looked into Squarespace and was really considering making a wedding website, and most importantly, a platform for guests to RSVP online easily. I opened an account. I made websites before, but we didn't have like engagement photos ready. And even if so, I don't really feel like displaying our engagement photos, including a countdown, sharing our story. I just don't really feel like it is our thing. Our micro wedding is going to be short and sweet anyway, so it's not like there's going to be a full itinerary or anything. Again, I think most importantly, going back to what feels the best fit for you and your partner at the end of the day. So we kind of put that idea aside. We also tried gettingmarried.co.uk, which is quite an intuitive platform, simple to put together, but the themes just didn't really work for us. Finally, out of the blue, Papier has been doing a lot of Instagram promotions targeting me, and they do the most lovely, beautiful stationeries, from diaries, planners, notebooks, but also photo books, wedding stationeries, and a free digital wedding tool, which allows you to send out digital save the dates, email, message your guest list, and basically consolidate all of your guest preferences under a platform. It is completely free and exactly what I was looking for. So to get started, simply head to their website papier.com. Under wedding, click digital wedding tools. Register for an account, input your event, in this case the wedding, your wedding date, you and your partner's names, and you can pick a handle or customize the URL. You'll be able to import or input individual guest names, choose from their template, which I think they're all so beautiful. But following our theme and style, we actually love the most simple of them all. And that is how our online wedding RSVP came about. Hopefully, our guests will not have any problems doing their RSVP there. It is as simple as scanning the QR code. You don't really even need a QR code. You can just share the wedding URL, log into their respective first name and last name, and fill in the form accordingly. If you're still following along, another thing that I did was, instead of having our guests type out weddings.papier.com////, which can be long and troublesome, we actually opted for a URL shortener bit.ly on our actual RSVP card. That way, our guests can type a much shorter URL, and because it is also a URL or link redirector, in any case, if the weddings.papier platform didn't work out, I can always go back to the back end and redirect that link to somewhere else. Hopefully that makes sense. It is just a contingency plan. None of that should happen, so fingers crossed it will all work out. I haven't seen my family and friends opt for this QR code or this online RSVP platform, but I feel like this is the way forward because it's such a simple platform to consolidate everyone's preferences, dietary requirements, contacts, all in one platform. Of course, alternatively, you can always keep things simple and ask your guests to RSVP through an email or on WhatsApp. So I got back to her confirming that I don't need any like wax seal stickers or any envelopes. Everything was approved and good to go from my end in like mid-February. I gave her all of the words, all of the names that needs name tag printing, and she got back to me with an initial mock-up and how it would look put together. Everything looks good and was off to the printer a few weeks later. To be honest, the printing took longer than expected. Initially in my mind, I wanted to send my invitations out late February, but then now we're sending out early April, which is not a biggie, but lead time is something not to be overlooked. Rebecca also helped package everything exactly how I wanted it. I wanted a white thread triple tied across. I was also very particular in terms of the alignment of the pieces of paper inside. Shocker, I know. But I wanted the save the date vellum card to align to the right and the RSVP card to align to the left. And she was so kind to help accommodate my request, and I just really appreciated it. So once my invitations were printed and packaged, they were delivered overnight near the end of March. And this is when I have to do all of the finishing touches, like the wax seal stamps with the corresponding name tags, envelopes, etc. Because I've custom designed my own wax seal, I'll obviously have to do the stamping myself, which I really did enjoy. I did this through Taobao, which is a Chinese version of Amazon crossover Etsy. I do have to come up with the design myself, which I made through Photoshop. For me and Brian's initials, we opted for a simple serif font to give it a little bit more of an elegant, traditional vibe, but a sans serif and symbol in the middle. I also added in a simple semicircle border rather than a full border to create a more minimalistic personality, ultimately creating a logo for our household. I think having a wax seal stamp is pretty popular nowadays when it comes to wedding invitations. You can have your initials of your wedding date on it, or a eucalyptus or a nice floral print that are readily available. Ultimately, we wanted something that is timeless and personalized. Something that we can use on our Christmas cards moving forward, or on anything that we're sending out on behalf of me and Brian. Just something to think about when you're creating your own, because if you're planning to add your wedding date on your wax seal stamp, then surely you can only use it on all of your wedding festivity stationeries, which is at most save the dates, invitations, thank you cards, or like anniversary cards. Just my 2 cents if you're going to personalize your own wax seal stamp. We also shopped around for various wax seals and kind of swatched around which color works best to our envelopes. We also got some like coppery rose gold flakes but never ended up using. We tried out pearlescent colors, but at the end we incorporated a recipe of 2 solid white with 2 clear or milky clear wax bead to create this beautiful marble translucent effect, which I love. We used about 4 to 5 wax beads per seal, and I would recommend doing some trial and error and practice first. I didn't do much practice because I was just so excited, so 1 or 2 ended up quite iffy, but yeah. Another 2 tip or trick is, if you want this marble effect, don't swirl around, just let it melt. And if your wax seal has to align a certain way, make sure you have a marker to mark on the stamp so you always know how to position your stamp when imprinting so as to achieve the look that you want, and it won't be rotated or turned upside down, if that makes sense. I love the finishing of these and I cannot wait to wax seal on other things. It is just so soothing and satisfying. Another thing I was quite concerned about was sticking the wax seal to the vellum jacket, because vellum is like a parchment paper, right? I was quite concerned that it won't stay put, but nope, it wasn't a concern. It got stuck to the thread, the name tag, and the vellum jacket perfectly. To finish everything off, we also have our little custom envelopes, which are from another Etsy seller, Magna Papers. They just happen to be doing a 20% off on the exact color and exact size of envelopes that I wanted, and I ordered them with a little customization at the back. For our immediate family, we also printed their names and addresses when applicable. In this stage, if you're looking to order custom envelopes, may I suggest adding 2 or 3 extra ones with dummy addresses and guest names, just to give to your wedding photographer on your wedding day to take those beautiful wedding stationery flat lays. I did that for our wedding invitations, but I didn't do that to our envelopes, which I'm a bit gutted about, but there isn't much I can do about it. We also played around with the idea of envelope inserts, but at the end, it just felt like it was distracting the impact of our wedding invitations when guests opened them, so we decided to opt them out. Because most of our first batch of family and friends receiving these are abroad, I do want to put a little British touch to the envelopes and decided to stick 3 UK stamps on each envelopes. I initially opted for 1, but it looked a little bit more grand when there's 3. From what I briefly researched, UK does not have these like specialized wedding pretty stamps, but the state does. But again, I was in the market for something that's monochromatic, and this 50p slate gray stamp with Queen Elizabeth is just perfect. These serve absolutely no purpose at all because I'm not mailing them just like that, but it definitely makes it look a little bit more fancy, if you will. So yeah, this is how I ended up packaging each sent out. These will be sent out via DHL to Canada individually. I will DHL the ones to my family directly to my mom, and she is going to help distribute them. Brian is going to send his to his parents, and we have a few that we're sending out locally. And this is how our wedding invitation process came about. Just for the record, I think we spent about £210 on 30 personalized invitations and £80 on 50 personalized envelopes. It might be a lot to some, it might be a steal, but because we have so little, like so few invitations, in the grand scheme of things, it is rather affordable. If you would like me to do a full breakdown of our wedding budget after the wedding, let me know. I know that it is quite a touchy subject when it comes to like money, just because it is so subjective. But I watched some of the brides do their breakdown and it really gave me perspective and a sense of how much wedding actually can cost. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and it's not too daunting. I do want to share my process of creating this beautiful piece of invitation right here. If you have any questions regarding anything that I've mentioned in today's video, do let me know in the comments below. And if you look forward to future wedding content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and give this video a thumbs up. Otherwise, I shall see you guys in my next one. Take care, guys. Bye!